guys, welcome back to LS Vintage Design. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Today we are talking about vintage and or antique art. Oh, Sam says hi. And what do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to put up a few examples here. These are truly antiques or vintage, almost antiques from the 40s, 30s. You can tell by the big, bulky, thick frame, by the composition of the art, by the subject of the art. And what do I mean by all of that? We're going to get into it. But before we do, if you haven't yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, click that little bell, click all. It will not bug you. It will just let you know when I post a new video. If you like the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Now, let's jump in. Okay, guys. So, vintage art. What am I talking about? I'm talking about art that looks like this or this. These are classic examples of 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s art that we saw in maybe your parents' house, maybe your grandparents' house, maybe your great-grandparents' house. This art is classic when we think of art. Unless you're very, very lucky and your family was lucky enough to own something by a master such as Da Vinci, Picasso, Rembrandt, just to name a small fraction of the masters. Then you had art maybe like this or like this, or maybe you were lucky enough to have reprints of art from Monet or Dali, or maybe something from or maybe your household had newer art from artists like David Hockney or Judy Chicago. Whatever your interaction with art throughout the years has been is what shapes your taste. So vintage art and antique art, remember, vintage art is anything that is 25 years and older. So anything that was produced in 2001 back is vintage. Now when you hit back 100 years, then that becomes antique, 100 years old or older. So art is very much in the eye of the beholder. It just is. So as we go back through art, there are different categories that become popular. The masters, you had the landscape artist, you had the portraits. You go back even farther, you had your religious. It depends on where your taste in art is on what you're going to gravitate towards. For this video, mostly I'm going to focus on landscapes just because I am a landscape painter, but we're also going to talk about the Impressionist. We're going to talk about a little bit of everything, but a heavier focus on landscapes. A lot of the examples will be landscapes. Now, these are not by the masters, but these are older landscape vintage paintings or artwork. You can tell because when you get up close to these paintings, you can see brush strokes. They are clearly oil paint. Okay, you can tell maybe by the frame. The frames are bulkier, they're more ornate, they're heavier. You can tell by looking at the back. How was it framed? It is not going to look like today. It's not going to be clean cut, modern. It's probably going to have a piece of old brown paper. It could be torn. It's going to be yellow. It might have water stains. That's what the back, you might see nails. That's what the back of a vintage or antique painting is going to look like. But Most of them, when you get up close, they are going to be oil paints. You have, when you look at these vintage or antique paintings, you're going to have a lot of brush strokes. You're going to have a lot of texture, a lot of body because of the oil paints. Now, if you have one, maybe the frame is not quite as chunky, as ornate, as heavy, but you still think it's vintage, but you can see the brush strokes, but you don't have that texture. It's probably a print, which is just as good. There are vintage prints. There are vintage lithographs. We will go into more of the vintage tin plate, the vintage photographs, the vintage lithographs. We will go into that in our next video next week. But vintage art, you get a sense of history with it. Even if the painting is a generic landscape, a portrait of some unknown woman, mostly they were women, mostly they were nudes back in the day, you're gonna get a sense of history because of the overall presentation, the materials, the paints, the way it's presented in the big ornate frame. Can you have smaller paints? Of course you can. Of course you can. Vintage art comes in all sizes, just like today. Are you looking to invest in vintage art, antique art? Then you really need to do your homework. I mean, a deep dive down the rabbit hole on the artist you want the work from, on all of the different artworks that this artist did. How many are still in the market? How many are available? Then you're going to want to deep dive into the specific painting that you are looking at and make sure it has been authenticated as an original artwork. And if it has not yet, I suggest you do that. There are a lot of certified appraisers out there to do that. I can do that. So you will want to check. And to do that, you pay for it because it is a service and it takes a lot of work on the side of the appraiser because we as appraisers, that's our reputation. So we make sure we go see the item firsthand in person because photographs, some appraisers will do it, but personally I want to see the item firsthand. I want to see that body, see that texture, see that paint. I want to look at all sides of this. If it's framed, most likely it will be. I want to see it firsthand. I'm going to look for telltale signs. Is it an original or is it a modern day or a, somewhere in between when it was made and now forgery. Forgery is a harsh word. Reproduction. So if you're going to invest in vintage or antique art for your legacy, for the family, as an investment, you're going to want to make sure what you are buying, what you are putting your hard money into and counting on to, rise in price is real. But what about, let's say you're just an everyday person like me and you want a piece or pieces of vintage art for your home or your office. What can you do? Guys, I wrote a blog on this today. I suggest you go check out the blog. It is in the post on my channel. There's a lot of information in that, but I will say, go to estate sales. You can see them there. You can pick them up. You can look at them. Go to thrift stores. Go to antique malls. Go to garage sales. Go to warehouse sales. That sort of thing. and really look at it. Is it what you want? Is it going to fit in with your aesthetic or the aesthetic you are trying to create? And then you have your price point. Know the market, you know. Know, is this painting, it's vintage, it's an original, but it's not by anybody that's going to command a high dollar from, okay? It is an original, you want to buy it for your home, okay? Something like this painting here is going anywhere from $400 to $700, depending on the area where you live, and that's a fair price. Even with the economy as bad as it is now, home decor and vintage antiques are still high. And this is a big, heavy painting. Now, if you go and look at this, and again, it's a print, then no. I would say 100 to 300, maybe 400 top. But if it is a painting, 400 to 700. What if you get art and it's not in good shape? It's vintage, you love it, you want it, but what if it's not in good shape? What can you do? And this is from the 60s. You can tell by the frames, you can tell by the art. They are so adorable, and I'm going to put them in my bathroom. These have no glass. The backs are off, basically. You can see there's some damage there. But they are just so cute. They're my colors. They're dogs. My bathroom is dogs. They are not in good shape. There's a lot of damage on them. So what I would say is, if you were looking at this and you thought, oh, that's kind of rare, I've never seen it. Okay, one, it's not an actual painting, it's a print. Two, look at the damage on it. It was not well taken care of. They were stored in somebody's garage. Now, I like the damage. I think it adds to its charm. All I'm going to do is have it reinstalled in the back. It's actually coming out of this frame, as you can see. I'm going to have it reframed in the same frame, and I'm gonna have glass added and some wire for hanging, and that's it. That's all I'm going to do. But this is not a piece you would invest in, clearly. It's not a real painting, it's a print. It's very damaged. It's not something you would want to invest in for future gains, okay? But this is something you would buy if you saw it, you loved it, and it worked with your home, with your decor. Okay, you clearly see a distinction between that. Now, what if you found these and you're like, well, I love the frame. It's a wood frame. I like, you know, how it is. I don't like that yellow, but I like the shape of the frame. And say this was $2. I actually bought for $5 for the pair, so it was $2.50. But say one, you found one, you love the frame, you love the detailing on the frame, you just don't like anything about it besides the shape and the fact that the frame's wood. Okay, well, you can, if vintage art is really destroyed, you have permission, because I know sometimes people are like, oh, don't do anything with it. Well, then it's going to go in the trash, okay? So if you find something like this, you really like it, as far as, like I said, the frame, but you want to repurpose it, do it. Do it. Give this vintage frame new life. And you know what? You could give this vintage print new life too, because it could be a backing. Just use it to back something. You could flip it over. You could paint it white. You could paint on this and frame it yourself. I gotta change battery. So it is okay to take vintage art that's not in good shape, paint over it, or use it as the backing. Say you found a bunch of small artworks and you love them, and they're on canvas, they're not framed, but you love the size, the shapes. Maybe they're a circle, a rectangle, and a square, and you like the look, how they have them displayed in the antique mall, the estate sale, wherever. You're like, oh, I like that. They're on canvas. I just don't like the subject. You're not destroying a well-known artist. You're not you know, they're not anything that's going to gain in value. They're just art. And if you don't buy them and nobody else buys them, they're probably going to go to the to the thrift store, and then they'll eventually go to the trash. Take them, buy them, paint over them, whatever your vision is for those vintage canvas, do it. Because it's okay to repurpose, repaint over vintage art if it's in bad shape, if you don't like the subject, if it's not a masterpiece or something that, you know, could gain value. It doesn't seem very smart, obviously, to paint over artwork that is by someone that is going to gain value. Or it's like if you go and you find art from the late 90s and you don't like it, but you like the size, the shape, the frame, whatever. Well, odds are something from the late 90s is not going to gain value. It's probably not by an actual artist. It's probably computer art. Early 2000s, probably computer art. It's okay. It's good. Let's look at it this way. 25 years from now, somebody's going to go to a thrift store, garage sale, whatever, and they're going to find some art on canvas, and they're going to be like, oh, that's hideous, but I love the canvas. I love the frame. I love, you know, whatever. And it was just AI art. So they're going to paint over it. And that's the difference. So if you find vintage art and you can really tell that it's either a print or it's not human made, it's okay to buy it and paint over it. But you know what? It's okay to buy the really old stuff that really is oil paintings. Just be sure you're not buying something for $25 that's worth $1,000. That's all I'm saying. So vintage art can also be sculptures, okay? It can be ceramics. It can be a lot of different things, just not paintings. So when you're buying vintage sculptures or vintage ceramics, do your homework and make sure. It's like buying a vintage ceramic vase. You love it, but maybe you don't like the way it looks. It's not your style. It's more grandma's style, but you love the shape. So you're thinking, okay, I'm gonna buy that. I can spray paint over that, or I can decoupage over that, or mosaic. Make sure you're not, you know, spray painting over a mean vase. You know, just saying. Okay, this is an example. This is vintage. It's from the late 1990s. It's probably some sort of ceramic, I would say. I'm going to resell this. There's a chicken lover out there, somebody. There's a red lover. That's fine. But maybe somebody, I'm going to put it in my booth. Maybe somebody goes to my booth and they're like, ooh, I really love the shape of that. Okay, I really love the shape. That's a good shape. It does have a good shape. But I'm not into roosters or chickens. And the color is not my color. But they're going to buy it, okay? And they're going to buy it and they're going to repurpose it. They're probably going to spray paint it and then put one of those textured spray paints on it in some beigey color and put it in their home. It's going to look beautiful because of the shape. And that's fine, because we all know this subject matter is not a mean vase. It's not by a master of porcelain or ceramics. And it's vintage, but it's not antique. So I hope that gives a little clarity into vintage art, and we will be doing more. I wanted to write about that. I wanted to write about vintage art, vintage sculptures, that sort of thing today, because all week we are going to be out. I am traveling for work. I am searching for vintage, I'm searching for antique chairs, an antique table, and an antique painting to go behind. So we will be seeing a lot of vintage and antique finds this week, and we will be talking a lot about them. There will be shorts. I'll probably even do some videos over on Facebook. So if you don't follow me over there, it's down below. Please follow me on Facebook. Please follow my Instagram, and go check out the blog today, because it's all going to tie in to the week ahead, starting tomorrow. Guys, take care. Have a wonderful week. I will see you back for another full video on Monday the 20th, but you will have a lot of content, I promise, this week. Take care. Bye-bye.